This video is brought to you by Recurrent, an essential EV tool that gives free access to TFL EV viewers in the US. With Recurrent, EV shoppers can check range and battery info on used cars. EV owners can connect to compare their range and battery health to similar vehicles. And EV sellers can use Recurrent to get more money for their sales. With Recurrent, we can find, drive, and sell electric cars positively. Click on the link in the description below to get free access to Recurrent's amazing EV tools.
Check this out, dude, because there's a new Toyota in town.
That's right. Many of you may have seen the new updated Toyota BZ that they've made a bunch of improvements to, but this is not just any regular old BZ.
No, this is the new BZ Woodland edition. Actually, it's a whole different car, actually, in their lineup.
Yeah, so it's very different from the regular BZ, but it is very similar to another car on the market.
Yes, because Toyota is collaborating with Subaru. They've done this in the past for many years, actually. We can talk about that a little bit later. But this new story is kind of all focused on this new Woodland. And it does look a little bit Subaru-ish to me.
Yeah, especially if we pull up this photo of the rear.
Okay.
So that's the back of the BZ Woodland.
Yes.
And then if we click over to what the back end of the Subaru Trailseeker looks like, not that, but that. A lot of similarities. They changed up the bumper a little bit. The taillights look pretty similar. Of course, the doors, the window cutouts, everything there looks very similar. But the front end on the Toyota, they've changed quite a bit. The front end, to me, looks a lot like the Crown. Yeah,
like the Crown Signia crossover that is on sale now. And I think they really had to do that, right? Because when you look at the lineup of our manufactured vehicles, there has to be some resemblance between one Toyota, like for example, a Camry, RAV4, etc., etc., etc. So they're kind of tying some of those cars in together to kind of introduce this new face. But like you said, and we'll go over the specs, right? Spec by spec between the Trailseeker and this Woodland BZ.
Yeah.
They're almost identical on specs.
Yeah, the ground clearance is the same, the range is the same, the power is the same, the battery capacity is the same. So they're very similar vehicles. Spec for spec, they're pretty much the same, so it just depends really if you're cross-shopping the two, which dealership's closer to you, which styling do you like better, which one can you find some better deals on.
Exactly, and basically what it is an all-wheel drive vehicle, right? So there is a motor in the front, there is a motor in the rear. I'm assuming that's the front. Is that
Looks
fair
like
to say?
it, yeah.
Okay, so it's going this way.
Yeah, it's driving, and there's no body on it.
Well, that's okay. It's all remote controlled now,
right?
So we have the battery. So the battery on the BZ Woodland is stated by Toyota capacity is 74.7 kilowatt hours, which is what 75-ish, which is the same as the Trailseeker, right?
Yeah, exactly the same as the Trailseeker. The other thing that's exactly the same is 260 miles of range. 260 is not a massive number. If you want more range, you can get the updated BZ that can get you, what, over 300 miles of range if you get the bigger battery on the regular BZ.
This is the regular BZ, by the way. So at TFLcar.com, we've got a story recently, just a couple of days ago. Zach wrote this up. And you could see, obviously, family resemblance between the regular BZ, which is a bit smaller, right? Have slightly different specs, less power, and now the BZ Woodland. But this is what the BZ, the regular one, looks like now.
Yeah, and one cool thing about this new BZ Woodland that they're showing off is that horsepower, pretty good. 375 combined horsepower is the output on this vehicle. So
dude, I'll take that.
It should be pretty quick.
Yes.
One drawback, though, it is going to be more of a street-oriented vehicle, despite the fact that they're showing it maybe a little bit off the beaten path in some of these shots. About 8.3 inches of ground clearance, so enough to get by, enough to go to a trailhead and maybe bring your mountain bikes. But it's certainly... It's not going to be a trail seeker much as Subaru calls it, even though it's the same ground clearance as the trail seeker.
Yeah, well, it happens a lot with mini crossovers like this, right?
Yeah.
They put a little bit beefier tire on it, maybe some cladding, right? But it's not really like a Rubicon rock crawler, right?
Of course not.
But they do share quite a few technologies between the two, between Subaru and Toyota. For example, X mode, all-wheel drive. This is a term that Subaru has used
for a long time.
For like a decade, if not more, right? So this BZ Woodland has that technology as well.
Yeah, so again, a lot of similarities between this and the Subaru, and 8.3 inches of ground clearance, not bad for a crossover, but it's definitely not going to be a super rugged vehicle. One thing that I do like, though, is 3,500 pounds of towing, which is pretty decent.
Yeah, none of these pictures have a hitch or a trailer behind it, but 3,500, like you said, like our Ford Maverick Hybrid pulls about 4,000. So 3,500 pounds, you could do a little bit of work, camping trailer, a couple of boats, a couple of jet skis, that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent number, and it is all-wheel drive, so you'll be able to use it in most conditions, most different weather situations that you're going to come across. If you live somewhere like we live here in Colorado, it'll be great in the snow. So it should be a good all-arounder. And what about, they're saying 30 minutes to get from 10 to 80% charging, best case scenario?
Yeah, so I wouldn't really tow a big trailer with that, right? Because you have 260 miles to begin with of range.
Yeah,
when
that's
you put
going
the
to get
trailer
cut down by quite a bit.
It could get cut down in half, maybe, if you're pulling, something sizable of that weight. And if you're not charging super fast, like you said, 30 minutes, 10 to 80, which is kind of okay. I mean, it's not the class-leading, industry-leading.
But that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
But I agree. In a pinch, I would say that this would work for towing, but it's not going to be anyone's towing rig. One thing you do see on the interior here is that they've done an absolutely massive 14-inch screen.
Yeah, and this is kind of happening across the board. Just a couple days ago, Tommy did a video about the new CHR EV that's also coming for 2026, and that car also has some giant screens in there as well.
Yeah, which is especially a big screen on a smaller car like that.
Yeah.
But that big screen kind of rules the cockpit of the car. Otherwise, it's a lot of similar things from what we expect with Toyota. This interior, at least as it's pictured, the particular color choices on this one look pretty sea of black. There's not a ton of contrast, maybe a little bit here in the dash, a little bit with the stitching on the steering wheel, and some different trim materials there around the center console. But for the most part, it's a pretty simple, plain interior.
And kind of like how they put some of the gauge cluster a little bit higher, so the driver, keep their eyes a little bit higher on the road. Hopefully, it doesn't block your view completely. It might just a tiny bit.
Because like on some other products with a similar configuration that we've seen in the past, like the Prius, for some people, their driving position and their preferred steering wheel position, sometimes the wheel can get a little bit in the way of the instrument screen on the Prius, at least.
But the steering wheel is a circle.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a square or a yoke or something like that.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But we'll have to actually get up in close and in person with this vehicle to see how the ergonomics are.
Exactly.
And how everything on the interior is. But knowing Toyota, I think this is going to fall right in line with a lot of their other products.
And it's a 2026 model, so Toyota's unveiling a variety of vehicles this week and next week. We saw some of the Corolla Cross, we saw some other vehicles like the CHR that they're unveiling this, and there's a big one supposedly coming still.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's the new RAV4.
That's what I think we're all hoping, yeah.
Yeah, so we still don't have quite all the details on that yet, but hopefully that's coming very soon. And as far as pricing, they haven't announced pricing yet or exact timing for this car yet.
Exactly. So we don't really want to speculate so much on that. We'll find out sooner rather than later. And also soon we'll be getting an opportunity to get behind the wheel of one of these, drive with it. I doubt we'll get an opportunity to tow with it because I'm going to figure that most of these are not.
If we have it here with a hitch, we will tow with it.
And that's the big caveat. If it has a hitch, which I'd be a little surprised if they spec one with a hitch, but it would be cool if they did because we love towing and seeing how different vehicles perform doing it.
Exactly, and just for reference, we already showed you kind of the trailseeker Subaru and how different it is in the front, with the lights in the front end. Also, here's the Solterra for 2026 also, and these were shown in New York. Actually, I saw them at the New York Auto Show just about a month ago. And I just wanted to bring up this as we close in because Toyota and Subaru has been working together for decades. They've had sports cars that they developed together, GR86 and BRZ that they have worked on before. Yeah,
the partnership's been around for a while and they're still benefiting from it. So yet another vehicle from Toyota that people will be able to cross-shop. Again, It'll be interesting to see if people end up veering hard towards the BZ, this particular BZ, or the Trailseeker, because they are spec for spec right in line with each other.
Exactly. Well, let us know what you think. Which one would you prefer?
Yeah.
When both are available. So let us know, and check out alltfl.com, because a lot more news are coming.
Yeah, there's
Still.
tons of news.
And also, Roman and Tommy are going to be there in person. They're going to see most of these cars in person. So that's another thing that's coming.
Yeah, we'll
too.
have a lot more videos coming right around the corner.